These publishing videos where I share how much I spent to self-publish one of my books, and then also if I made my money back before, during, or shortly after release, are some of my absolute favorite videos to make. I think partly because I love seeing videos like that and just knowing what to expect, but also because it's just really fun and helpful for me to do these reviews on my own books as well. So today I want to share how much I spent on publishing as well as how much I spent on marketing this beautiful book leading up to its release on October 1st, which is when this video is going to go live. So far in the 15-ish books that I've published, I have made my money back either before release altogether or during release week or during release month, depending on the book. And I do have a playlist, I think, that you can watch, which I'll link below in the description box if you want to watch those other videos. But today, in honor of the Queen's Rise, we're going to find out if this beautiful book has made its money back and also how much I spent, because I think it might be the most I've ever spent on a book ever. We'll talk about it. Anyway, spoiler. If you watched this Kickstarter video where I shared my Kickstarter expenses, then you do know the publishing side and you have a little bit of an idea of how much I spent to publish this beautiful book. But since then, I've spent a lot of marketing as well. So I think it'll still be a really fun watch and you'll get to see like a grand total. And again, find out if I actually made the money back. Let's start with part one, the publishing expenses. Number one is always going to be the cover for me. So this cover is actually a three-parter. First, we have this beautiful character art, which looks like this on its own. I hired this insanely talented artist on Instagram who did this for $700, including the commercial rights. That's an important thing to note because otherwise, technically, the artist also retains the rights, but giving commercial rights means I am allowed to sell this artwork, aka as a book cover. So that is an important thing to note when you are purchasing character art that I wanted to mention. If you want to know more about character art, I have this fun video here. But under the jacket is actually a design that I made all by myself. This beautiful cover here is actually pretty simple. I did a few tweaks to it in Photoshop, but mainly I purchased this one photo for the front and the back. And to get, again, the commercial rights to use something like this for sale, I had to pay $69 for this one photo that I then did some work with to make it stretch across the spine. And that leads very nicely into the next expense, which is Photoshop, because I had to design obviously this typography onto the cover using Photoshop. And I also did all the typography on this guy as well. Typography just means the text. And I purchased Photoshop and was learning it over time, and I did other covers as well. So technically this expense is not fully for this book, but those 6 months of Photoshop were, I think, $20 a month to rent. So by the time I finished this beautiful book, I had spent roughly $120 on Photoshop to get this beautiful cover design. And then I had to order proof copies. Hold on. 3, 4, 5, 6 proof copies total. This is overkill on proof copies. Typically, I'll order one to proofread and one final proof copy for marketing purposes. But there were so many things, so many reasons. Be careful not to mix them up. For example, this one had a very, very basic underjacket design when I was still learning Photoshop. I think that's partly why I ordered so many. It was a Photoshop thing where I was like, I don't know if I'm doing this right. I don't know if things are centered. I think I changed the cover slightly, tried taglines, for example. Oh, this one actually might be the proof copy from 48 Hour Books. So this was like one of the last ones that I got. This one was another really basic cover. I think I was doing some interior work, but then also I wanted to use it for marketing as well. At one point I ordered through Amazon's KDP just to see what this would look like, because ordering through Ingram Spark would have taken like months and I wanted it like within a couple weeks. This one I was also testing some Kickstarter features like a signing page, testing things like font size to see if it looked good. This is before I had any chapter headers. This one's also through KDP because it doesn't have the dust jacket. I think this might have been the very first one I ever did, just to test that front cover and see how the character art printed. I think the inside formatting is probably the oldest out of all of it, although of course the book was completely done. Then there's the floppy paperback where I was like, again, I don't have time to wait for Ingram Spark, but I need to actually make sure this interior formatting has turned out gorgeous. So this is like the final formatting choices, just to test chapter headers, Spotify playlist, things like that. I did the math on this in the Kickstarter video, but it turned out to be, with shipping and the cost of printing, $120 for all 6 copies as well. I want to note there are a few things that I did not purchase that typically an author would purchase, especially if you're a newer author, things that I used to purchase in the past and I just don't need to now. One of them being an editor. I know, don't come for me. I've had a lot of people say that the editing quality in these books is good, okay? It's not that I'm skimping on an editor. I'm not doing this all by myself. I still get a lot of eyes on my story, but like I talked about in this video way back in the day, I actually do swaps with my critique partner. I have beta readers who are willing to help me out with the developmental side of things, who are amazing. And my mom helped me with proofreads. All of these eyeballs on the story are getting it to that professional level that it needs to be. And I also have some professional training myself with my degree. But you can always read excerpts of my stories on Amazon, and I think also on Google Play and other vendors. If you're like, well, I want to see if the writing's actually good before I buy it. Totally get that. Another thing that I used to purchase, but I stopped purchasing when I ran out, was ISBN numbers. And that's a whole other conversation. But the very, very short version is, pretty much every single print-on-demand company gives them to authors for free now. And it could be a little bit limiting depending on who's purchasing. But in a lot of cases, ISBN numbers are more for like librarians and for booksellers. So if you don't have a lot of interaction with them, it's not as big of a deal, especially for ebooks. That said, for hardcovers, I did just get one free ISBN through Ingram Spark, and then that's the one that booksellers and librarians would look up if they want a hardcover. And I don't think it's an issue. I'm experimenting. We'll find out. But the fun thing is that if I ever wanted to, I could purchase ISBNs again and then republish this book with my own ISBN number. It's not a big deal. But I haven't found the need to buy them again. I feel like I should promote this as I say this. Last but not least, I did not have to pay a cover designer because, like I said, I did that cover myself. I still feel like I had a lot of cover expenses, but they were different than they typically are for me. In the past, I hired cover designers, but going forward, I'm really excited to continue probably doing covers for myself because I love it. All of these things I'm saying as like a don't copy me right out of the gate. This is not what I did when I first started. This is my like 15th-ish book that I'm finally starting to do more of these things on my own, and I've built up enough people to swap with as well. Okay, and then, hold on. Maybe I should show you the one in the book, but I also had 2 expenses that I would not ever normally do because they're so expensive, and I want my books to kind of be on the lower end when I'm first publishing. But in this case, because of the Kickstarter and the stretch goals, I did end up doing both of these. Is a second character art of Jezebel and Coda that got put inside the book right here, but I just wanted to show you the color version. And then actually, let me show you the map in the book because it's a little bit prettier and not as beat up as the one on my desk. And there's actually an updated version of this map that's going to be in the final print edition. This is the Kickstarter edition map, so it'll look like this. Again, this is like me saying, do what I say, not what I do, because I would never, ever, ever purchase these things if they weren't already paid for. But because of the Kickstarter literally covering the cost of those, I did end up buying them. So this second character art, which I also had to purchase the commercial usage rights to use, was $740. And then this map, which I need to reprint because I accidentally kind of bent it, also came with commercial usage rights and was $480. Those other graphics that I showed you, like the Kickstarter shout outs, the playlist, title pages, signing pages, chapter headers, all that good stuff. Those were all done by me, so I did not have to pay for any of those. Okay, total cost of publishing, if you count just the book itself, it was $1,009. However, I'm also going to count the character art and the map because they are inside the book now, and so including those, it comes to a wild total of $2,229. All right, part 2, the marketing expenses. First, I hired Storygram Tours. I've worked with them before. I've had great experiences. They're very professional. I will say that this is more about exposure, and I don't necessarily see a lot of sales coming out of this. So keep that in mind. I feel like this is really good for just getting the word out about the book, but I wouldn't necessarily count on a ton of sales coming from it. Yeah, it's just something I wanted to mention. So that was $200 for what they're calling a general tour right now. I think it's 7 days, one person a day, and then I have to send a book to every single person. So I set aside 7 books. So back when I ordered those Kickstarter books, I had 25 free books from 48 Hour Books, the company that printed them. And I was like, I'm gonna use those 25 free books as promotional materials, and of course, keep one for myself. And so 7 books were set aside and already sent out to Storygram Tours to be part of that promotion. So the books themselves were free, but I still had to pay for shipping, which was I think like $5.38 per book. We're just gonna round up to 6 because you gotta count like the packaging materials, tape, etc. So that costs roughly $242. Second, I put my book on NetGalley like we talked about. I've done this once before, and I would say this is a great way to do ARCs, which stands for Advanced Review Copies, to get reviews on your book before release if you just don't have time to do it yourself. Because I definitely think that I could also do this myself. I have amazing readers who are happy to help me out and leave reviews in advance, but I just don't have the time or the energy right now. So I decided, why not do NetGalley again? And NetGalley could be really expensive. Just FYI, for an indie author, I would not recommend going solo. It could be hundreds of dollars. There are actually co-ops that you can join where you just pay for a spot, but somebody else is paying the overall fee. So I actually work with an awesome NetGalley co-op that I will recommend and link below. Let Anne know I sent you if you decide to check that out. But that is $50 a month, and I asked Anne for 2 months, but she gave me 1 month free because of all the people I've sent her way. So thank you, Anne. You are amazing. And my total for NetGalley is $50 for that 1 month. Then I actually hired a second Instagram tour company, one that I have not worked with before, so I'm not gonna share their name or promote them until I've decided if it's a good experience or not. But I am going to send out a few of these books, these free ones as well. I haven't decided how many. They quoted $200 for this tour as well, but then it was supposedly a movable fee, which is probably the one thing that's bothered me the most and why I'm not going to share them yet in case that turns out to be really weird. But I am hoping to send up to 7 books to them as well, maybe less in this case, but we're gonna say 7 and just round up to 240 as well for that tour in case they up the price. I don't really understand. Okay, I'm editing this video and I have to update it because I actually ended up canceling working with this tour. They forgot about me, not just once, but twice. And they also were very weird about the payment, and they kept putting me off and not wanting to tell me the exact amount or send the official invoice. And then they were not sending me the addresses, so I couldn't send out the physical books on time, which ended up being a good thing because I was like, this is making me very uncomfortable. Long story short, I eventually just tried to very professionally say, hey, I'm going to take you up on canceling, which they had offered when they forgot me the first time. And instead of responding to me professionally back, they have completely ghosted me in a very uncomfortable way. I know that they saw my email and they chose to ignore it. So I'm actually very glad that I didn't share this information. I don't know if I want to say their name or not. Let me know if you want a release vlog. Maybe I'll share more details than that. But long story short, I saved $240 something because I did not send any of those books or pay a second tour company, and it ended up working out absolutely great because Storygram Tours has done amazing. Their photos are beautiful, and I don't really think I needed a second tour company anyway. But just know when I total everything up at the end that it's actually $240 less. But number 4 is gift card giveaways, and I've done those on Facebook for my street team. I've done them in my newsletter. I've done them for the public. And then I have one set aside for the pre-order campaign. But the nice thing about this is I'm actually just using rewards from my bank for credit card purchases that I've made for like pregnancy appointments again. So I am able to actually do all these gift card giveaways for free, which is awesome. Then I had physical book giveaways, and I have, I think, 3 planned total. Since all of these books, like I said, the promotional books are free, and I had 25 total, that doesn't cost me anything, but once again, shipping does. So it's roughly $15 shipping that I have set aside for all the giveaways. Last but not least, the pre-order campaign where I'm giving away these 2 character art prints along with annotated chapters and then a entry into a $50 Amazon gift card giveaway. This one, the price, I might have to put TBD because I don't really know how to calculate it. It's going to depend on how many people submit their proof of purchase. I have this campaign form going, which is going to be closed by the time this video goes live, but if people submit their proof of purchase, then I'm going to mail them those character art cards, and then one person will get a gift card, which is easy to email. But to figure out the cost of mailing these, I was a little stumped because technically these are all paid for. They came from the Kickstarter, which is fully covered, which means all I need to buy are envelopes and stamps, right? And envelopes, probably you could get a really big pack of like 100 for 15 bucks. And then stamps, I'm trying to guess, I don't know. I actually have stamps, so technically I don't have to buy any, but I'm sure they're expensive. I think a book is like 25. Let's estimate at least $35 to maybe up to $50. We can go on the high end and just say $50. That way I have a little wiggle room in my marketing budget and it might be less. Okay, total marketing costs so far. Are you ready? Depending, of course, on the second tour company and then how many pre-order gifts I actually end up sending out. Again, this is not quite accurate because I didn't end up spending $240 on that second Instagram tour. So the actual total would be roughly $292 plus whatever the pre-order campaign ends up being. So let's say round it up to maybe somewhere between $325 and $350. Drum roll, you ready? That's $2,229 for publishing. And we're just gonna round up to exactly $500 for marketing for a total of $2,729 spent on publishing and marketing The Queen's Rise. Once again, let's remove that second Instagram tour company that I no longer am working with. So this total number is actually closer to $2,500. That's wild. That's so much for me. Like my normal publishing budget, I think this is really important to note, is roughly $1,000 or less, or a lot less if possible. So to say I spent almost $3,000 is just blowing my mind. And I think it's really, really important to note that I would never do this. I don't think this is a good business decision unless I can guarantee that those costs are going to be covered, which in this case I could because of the Kickstarter. Which brings us to the part we've all been waiting for. Did I make my money back? If you saw that Kickstarter video, then you know the $13,000 plus did cover the entire cost of publishing, including that character art and map that were way over the top, but very, very, very fun to make. And that same Kickstarter that was selling the first 100, how many was it? 193 people bought this book, either physical or ebook. That 13,500-ish, whatever it was, also had $700 left in profit. So that was profit based on selling this book that I put into marketing. And so out of that $700, we have now spent $500 and still have a remaining profit of $200, which means yes, I have made all of my money back on this book, both publishing and marketing, and I have a profit, which is honestly just a relief and a really, really awesome way to start off a book release. It's so much better than being in the red. That means that every book purchased going forward will also be profitable, and that is exactly what you want to see as an indie author. So I just want to say a really, really huge thank you to everybody who's pre-ordered and left reviews on Goodreads. And now you're able to put them on Amazon and the other retailers as well now that the book is live. So thank you, thank you, thank you. I want to shout out some of those amazing reviews to say how much I appreciate you. You are all the best. I'm so happy you like this story, and I'm especially excited to hear what you think of those 2 exclusive bonus scenes. That means so much to me. So thank you in advance. So happy reading and happy release day to this beautiful book. I hope you enjoy it.